He was named Winthrop at birth and was lucky to survive, an aunt recalled.
He was nothing but skin and bones, and you could hardly tell he was breathing. In desperation, his mother paid a washwoman to come in and nurse him, and soon you could see a little life. Winthrop developed into one of the cutest little devils with curly hair, bright eyes, and a fetching smile which was hard to resist. When he was older, he begged to have his name changed to Edward Lyman after his father, which was done.
He was away at the University of Wisconsin when his father died. Then he took off for Europe to face death himself once again.
So grandfather followed in the tradition of his father, wandering off for adventure. And even though there was a family business to run, he joined the Friends Ambulance Corps and went off to serve in France in World War I, well before American entrance into the war. He lost a lung in the Battle of Marne. He was very badly gassed and not expected to live. Returned for a short rehabilitation in the United States, returned to France, and ended up joining the artillery of the French Foreign Legion. Our contact with them then disappears for a while, and he turns up many months later in Cape Town, South Africa, finally ready to come home. The other family lore that I only found out on my mother's deathbed, really 3 months before she died, was that he had a French bride, a war bride, and a son, both of whom died in the great influenza epidemic.
Perhaps that's why he plunged into the high life back home.
He led a rather interesting life with the ladies.
But there was a publishing business needing attention and a neglected mansion. One night, police discovered human bones in it after passers-by reported seeing intruders inside doing a ritual dance in the nude to the light of a swinging lantern.
The lighted lantern was found on a table. The bones were scattered all about the room. They were old and dry. Coroner Steller has discovered no reason to believe that the bones were from the bodies of people who were murdered.
In the spring of 1921, Ed and some well-heeled buddies met at Delmonico's to come up with a plan for his father's property, one that fit the times.
The dream home of the late Colonel E. Lyman Bill, for years the abode of bats and bums and the haunted house of mystery, is now in the hands of practical men and will be converted into the most modern and luxurious country club in America.
The name almost certainly was inspired by a best-selling book that had just been made into a movie.
Westchester was the center of golf in America in the 1920s, and the whole industry exploded here. It's a remarkable era of course construction, of development of the professional ranks actually in Westchester. If you think about it, more golf clubs were built in Westchester County between 1920 and 1930 than have been built in the 90 years since then. By 1930, 26 million Americans owned automobiles, which was a massive change, and enabled them to move to Westchester or to live in Manhattan and come to their country club in Westchester.
But an automobile almost spoiled his plan.
Mrs. Jenny B. Sawyer was struck and killed by an automobile early yesterday while walking on the sidewalk in New Rochelle. The automobile was being driven by Edward Lyman Bill, a music and magazine publisher and president of the Bonnie Briar Country Club. According to police, Mr. Bill, driving at a high speed, lost control of his car. It bounded over the curb and, after striking Mrs. Sawyer, carried her 70 feet before it crashed into an electric light pole, snapping it at its base. The driver was in dazed condition. He was removed to the New Rochelle Hospital, where he was placed under arrest under a technical charge of homicide.
At the hospital, Bill received condolence notes he kept all his life. The architects reassured him that the ghost house was becoming a clubhouse. And a lady friend joked how his nurse screened well-wishers.
Ed, dear, I'm aching to tell the almighty she, your doorkeeper, I'm your niece, but I'm afraid they know me too well. No doubt you've had hundreds of nieces from the Winter Garden to see you already. Well, cheer up, old dear.
He did have something to cheer when the main witness was nowhere to be found, and a policeman testified that a bump in the road might have thrown his car off course. Ed Bill did better than a showgirl when he finally married. Dorothy Smart was one of America's top models, and from a wealthy Scarsdale family to boot. It was a pairing out of F. Scott Fitzgerald's great opus of the Roaring Twenties, which noted that the careless rich sometimes smash things up and let other people clean up their mess.